Now, a new poll has found that over 1/3 of Americans are unhappy with the influence of the Israeli regime on U.S. politics. Now, a survey shows that an overall drop in support for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his policies. According to the poll, some 50% of the respondents who affiliate with the Democratic Party expressed concern over the Israeli leverage on U.S. politicians. Republican voters, that is, were more sympathetic with Israel in this regard. The poll also shows only 44% of respondents believed that Israel's influence on U.S. politics was at the right level. The poll was conducted by the Brookings Institution with the participation of over 1,700 people. Let's speak to a professor of globalization, Professor Anthony Hall. He joins us via Skype from Lethbridge. Many thanks for joining us here on Press TV, Professor Hall. Now, what do you make of these numbers?
Well, it's a convergence of many forces, a big one of which being the fact that the mainstream media monopoly is being challenged by social media, that actual information about how much Israel's policies are affecting negatively the people, the government, the industrial situation, the economic situation of the United States. The truth of this bad relationship is now constructed, is coming out through social media, and the mainstream media is losing its monopoly hold.
Well, but how far can this go, Professor, considering even social media platforms are now being accused of becoming biased and selective in the information that it's allowing its users to share?
Well, of course, social media, too, is subject to propaganda and infiltration. But the reality, for instance, of Benjamin Netanyahu and the disastrous image that he sends out, it may attract a certain Jewish allegiance in the world, but him claiming to represent all the Jews, the policies of Israel, which are so obviously belligerent and illegal and contrary to international law. I mean, the truth of what the situation is permeating the system, permeating the consciousness of humankind, and only partial truths are coming out. For instance, the fact that if it was known that Israel is selling much of its oil to Israel, the full impact that Israel is manipulating this Takfari, Daesh situation in the Middle East, as that information comes out, as the information about the role of Israel in 9/11, these enormous, big, fat truths sitting out there that little by little are permeating the consciousness of people, even though the system is trying to prevent this, is trying to counteract this. This is having effects, and it will continue to have effects.
Indeed. So, Professor, you're saying that if the hold of Israeli lobbyists on politicians in the U.S. is to weaken, it will have to be a grassroots movement?
Of course, the few number of people that go into politics, they're subject to bribery, to intimidation, to blackmail. But that can be dealt with in a certain constrained way. But the popular thinking of people around the world, not politicians, not their official representatives, but the people themselves, it's impossible to constrain the truth as dramatically has taken place in the past into the future. The truth will prevail.
All right, that's Professor Anthony Hall, Professor of Globalization with Lethbridge University, joining us via Skype from Lethbridge. Professor, thanks very much indeed for your comments here on Press TV.